You will forgive me anyway. She sits there on the edge of our bed and doesn't look at me, not really. When I turn my head to her, searching for any sign of regret, I'm met with a cold stare, barely acknowledging my presence. The room is dark, the curtains still drawn even though it's late in the morning. I've been up since dawn, drifting between anger and disbelief. But her expression, distant, almost bored, locks me into the worst kind of silence. My stomach knots and the clock ticks too loud in my ears. I am not obliged to explain, she finally says. No emotion, no sign of guilt. Those are the last words she offers me. I swallow a lump in my throat, waiting for something more, some trembling in her voice, some terror in her eye. But nothing. My head pounds. I open my mouth to demand an explanation, but she's gone quiet, her lips pressed into a thin line. As if she's made a decision, no more words, no more apologies. She said her piece, and that's all she owes me. We stare at each other in a tension so thick it could drown both of us until I can't bear it anymore. I stand. The floor creaks under my weight. She doesn't move, doesn't speak. And in that moment I realize I am alone. I step out of the bedroom feeling each heartbeat vibrate through my entire body. My arms tremble and I press my hands into my pockets to keep them from shaking so obviously. The hallway is dark, the air stale. Through the small window by the stairs I see the sky is overcast, gray clouds rolling in from the coastline, the sun swallowed up as if the weather itself wants to echo the hollowness pounding in my chest. Outside, everything is still. Our quiet suburban street lies empty. Not a single car passes by, no kids on bikes, no neighbors mowing the lawn. It's strange, like the whole world just paused, waiting for me to realize how far I've fallen. 6 years of marriage. And this is the day after our anniversary. This is how we commemorate it. The memory of last night rips through me, the French restaurant, the place she suggested, the table by the window with 2 settings. But when we argued, she told me I wasn't even invited. We need to discuss it after, she said a few days earlier, refusing to elaborate. And then, fine, I told her. You go. If you want to ruin our 6th anniversary, be my guest. I followed her anyway. Parked in my car across the street, half hiding behind tinted windows. She arrived in a slinky black dress I'd never seen before, something that flattered her figure in a way meant to catch more than just a casual glance. Beneath the soft glow of the restaurant sign, she paused to check her reflection in the glass door. My wife, looking excited. Nervous even. Like she was on a date and praying for it to go well. And then he showed up, a young guy, maybe early 20s. He had that cocky grin, that effortless stride, as if the city belonged to him. The sight of them together seemed ridiculous at first, her in an elegant black dress, him in a slightly wrinkled shirt half untucked, jeans, the sort of casual getup you'd expect from a college boy who thinks grooming is optional. And still, she lit up when he approached. She flashed a bright smile and put her hand on his arm, leaning in to greet him. The tension in my chest grew heavier. My breath caught like a fist around my lungs. I kept glancing at the clock on my dashboard as if marking time would ground me. 5 minutes later, they were seated at a corner table, fine crystal glasses in front of them, a candle flickering. The restaurant sign glowed in a deep burgundy, reflecting off the polished cars parked nearby. I wanted to storm in. My mind churned with images of grabbing him by the collar, forcing him outside, and yelling at her in front of everyone. But I froze. My body felt like lead, my tongue glued to the roof of my mouth. I couldn't move, only watch. The night grew darker, the wind picking up. Overhead, the street lamp flickered. In my mind, I screamed at her, "Why? Why are you doing this?" But in reality, I did nothing, just stared. And then, through the glass, I caught a glimpse of her sliding her hand over his on the table, her long fingers curling around his wrist. They shared a laugh. She threw her head back in a way I hadn't seen in years, that carefree laugh I thought only I could evoke. I burned inside, hatred swelling in my gut. When the waiter brought them wine, they lifted their glasses in a toast. I couldn't hear what they said, but it didn't matter. His eyes locked on her as if no one else existed. Her lips curved into a seductive smile. That alone was enough to kill me. Because I knew that look, playful, inviting, the kind she gave me back when we first started dating. Memories of our early days fluttered inside me, battered and bleeding. I let out a shaky breath and the inside of the car felt suffocating. I turned the engine on just to crack a window and feel some fresh air. Time dragged. I watched them talk, watched them sip more wine, felt my stomach churn as she reached across to touch his cheek. That single intimate gesture told me everything I needed to know. Her body language was open, leaning in, face illuminated by the candlelight. She wasn't there on business, wasn't meeting a client or an old friend. This was a date. A real date. On my anniversary. Then she kissed him. I saw it clearly through the large window, her lips pressed softly against his, a lingering moment that ignited something primal in my chest. Blood roared through my ears. My hands clenched so hard on the steering wheel that I thought I might break it off. She kissed him and my entire world shattered. I was no longer just the husband scorned, I was a stranger watching a scene of betrayal from the outside. I stared until my eyes stung. After that, everything became a haze of rage. I recall stepping out of the car at one point, taking a few steps toward the restaurant's entrance. A part of me wanted to barge in, flip the table, humiliate them both in front of the well-dressed patrons. But an older couple passed by, looking at me with mild concern, and I stopped. My chest heaved as though I'd just run a mile. I looked back through the glass. They were still locked in that romantic bubble, heads close together. I had no place in that moment, so I retreated, climbed back into my seat, and forced myself to endure the rest of it. Eventually, they stood up to leave. She walked out on his arm, her shoulder brushing against his, her head leaning close as they talked in hushed voices. I ducked lower behind the dashboard, though a twisted part of me wanted her to see me, to register my presence, to understand that I knew. But she never glanced my way. They disappeared together around the corner, and the glow of the restaurant sign flickered behind them. I sat in silence, letting the anger coil tight around my heart. At home, I waited, not even sure if she would come back. Hours stretched out in suffocating stillness. The night sky turned black. Around midnight, I heard the front door open. I was in the living room, perched on the sofa, all the lights off. She paused in the doorway but never turned on the light. Maybe she sensed my presence, maybe not. In the darkness, I felt her pass by me, heading upstairs. My shoulders trembled with adrenaline, yet I couldn't bring myself to speak. Moments later, I heard the bedroom door shut. A minute after that, her footsteps in the hallway. She was going to the guest room. She didn't say a word. Now it's the next morning, and she's on our bed, quietly refusing to engage with me. That single line, "I am not obliged to explain," echoes in my mind, and I realize no matter how many questions I ask, the answers won't come. My throat feels raw. Part of me wants to scream. Another part wants to walk out and never come back. Outside, the skies have darkened even more. There's a smell of impending rain in the air. I can't stand being inside the suffocating house, so I grab my keys and leave without telling her. She doesn't stop me. I walk out to the porch and the wind cuts through my shirt. The temperature feels colder than it should for this time of year. Clouds rumble in the distance. I climb into my car, start the engine, and drive aimlessly for what feels like an hour. My hands shake on the wheel. My head aches with the unspoken tension. Flashes of that kiss in the restaurant repeat in my mind. I remember the younger man's grin, that smug posture. I see her face, bright with laughter, the way her eyes sparkled for him. Anger, bitterness, humiliation, they spiral inside me until I can barely see the road. At some point, I park outside a convenience store and just sit there, panting like a wounded animal. Rain begins to pound on the windshield. In that suffocating moment, I recall something from our wedding day, 6 years ago, how she gazed at me with adoration as we exchanged vows. The memory feels like it belongs to someone else, a naive young man who believed in forever. She wore a simple white gown, no veil, and held my hands with so much warmth. I wonder how we got from there to here. But the memory only stabs deeper into my gut. Rain hammers down. The store sign flickers, half the letters burned out. A car pulls in next to me, headlights bright. I realize it must be nearly noon, though the storm makes it feel closer to dusk. My phone buzzes with an alert, but I ignore it. I can't bear to hear from anyone. I grip the steering wheel, letting the tears mix with my anger, though they never quite spill from my eyes. It's a cold rage surging from somewhere deep. Eventually, I make my way back home. The storm slows to a drizzle by the time I step into the house. She's not in the bedroom anymore, nor in the living room. The guest room door is shut. I hear nothing behind it. Silence. I want to pound on it, demand she talk. Demand an apology. Demand an explanation. But I don't. Instead, I go downstairs to my office where old family photos line the shelves, a series of snapshots that now seem like relics from a different life. On my desk sits the photo from our honeymoon in Hawaii. We're both smiling on a beach, sun-kissed and carefree. I pick it up, stare at it. My stomach twists. I hurl it into the wastebasket and slump into my chair, pressing the heels of my hands against my eyes. My breath is ragged. The numbness is creeping in, promising to dull everything if I just let it. But I don't want numbness. I want retribution. I log onto my computer, open up the search browser, and start typing the name of that boy, the one who walked in with her at the restaurant. I only know his first name from a single slip of the tongue she made weeks ago. At the time, it was meaningless, just another name among the people she meets through her events job. But now, fueled by a grim determination, I scour social media, public records, anything that can lead me to him. If there's a scrap of data out there, I'll find it. 40 minutes later, I'm staring at his photo on a college sports roster page. B. Hayes. Age 22. Studying sports medicine. A local star of some minor league training program. One of those kids who thinks the world is his for the taking. The more I read, the more my hands tremble over the keyboard. My eyes flick from website to website, digging deeper. Eventually, I stumble upon news of an incident involving him and a young woman, a scandal that almost went to court but was dropped. Details are scarce, but it's clear there was an accusation of sexual misconduct. He slithered away unscathed. I grip the mouse so hard my knuckles whiten. My gut churns at the realization my wife is risking everything with someone who's already proven dangerous. Why? Because he's young? Because he's got a toned physique and a devil-may-care attitude? Anger crashes over me like a tidal wave. A flicker of lightning outside illuminates the room in a sudden burst. Thunder follows. My heart thunders in my chest. A thirst for revenge, raw and powerful, replaces the heartbreak. I open new tabs, gather every source, every rumor. I create a folder on my computer, labeling it with his initials. I store screenshots, links, archived articles. If the law didn't get him then, maybe it can get him now. Some part of me wonders if I'm crossing a line. But the thought of his hands on my wife's body, his lips on hers, obliterates any moral hesitation. I feel an icy calm descend over me. I will bring him down. And if she won't explain or apologize, so be it. She has chosen her path. I spend hours like this. By late afternoon, the sky outside glows a murky orange, the storm clouds dispersing in the distance. I hear her moving around upstairs, soft footsteps. But she never comes down, never tries to talk. Fine. Suits me. Eventually I stand, my body stiff, the desk lamp throwing long shadows on the wall. I print out everything I've gathered, statements from that earlier case, old messages, suspicious social media posts. I put them in a file. It's not bulletproof, but it's something. Enough to raise eyebrows, maybe enough to get an investigation started. I find an old letterhead from a local community initiative I used to volunteer with, a place with some law enforcement ties. I type an anonymous tip referencing this new evidence and carefully detail the timeline of his questionable behavior. I create a burner email address. I attach the files, label them with times and dates, clearly referencing the victim from his past. Then I add more, recent photos of him with my wife, albeit taken from a distance near that French restaurant, along with timestamps. I paint a picture of a repeat offender who manipulates older women as well as younger, hinting there's more to investigate. I don't mention my name or hers. I keep it all neat, clinical. I click send. It's done. A chill runs through me, but I feel no regret. If he's done something illegal, or if he even hovers near that line, this might be enough for the police to dig deeper. Maybe they'll find the truth, maybe not. But at least now there's a bright target on his back. I lean against the wall, exhaling. My mind replays that restaurant scene again, but this time I'm not powerless. I notice a sense of twisted satisfaction creeping in, along with a layer of bitterness at my wife's betrayal. When I finally step back into the bedroom, I find it empty. She must be downstairs or out. The bed is unmade. A faint smell of her perfume lingers, stirring conflicting emotions in me. Love, hate, desire, disgust. It all merges into a sickening swirl. On the nightstand, her anniversary card, to me barely half-finished, lies crumpled as if she started to write it but lost interest. I want to tear it to shreds, but I don't. I drop onto the bed, let my eyes flutter shut. If sleep comes, I welcome it. A week passes in near silence between us. She avoids conversation. I don't push. Each day, I hide behind the routine of work. I go to the office, pretend everything is fine, come home to a house that feels foreign, shadowed by tension. In the evenings, the two of us roam different rooms. The only time I see her is in passing. She looks at me with a mix of guilt and defiance, but never says a word. At night, she often sleeps in the guest room, leaving our bedroom cold and empty. I keep an eye on local news, on the college's website, on everything that might reflect a police action against him. Days stretch on, each one sinking me deeper into some emotional purgatory. Outside, the weather changes from storms to scorching sun, then back to mild breezes, like the sky can't decide how it wants to feel, just as I'm stuck between fury and heartbreak. Then 2 weeks after the humiliating evening, I hear a commotion outside. It's late afternoon and I've just returned from the grocery store with a 6-pack of beer. The neighbor's dog barks like mad and I pick up on distant shouting. Curious, I walk out onto the porch, the wooden boards creaking under my step. A patrol car is parked across the street, lights flashing. Another unmarked car behind it. There's a group of officers gathered. My gaze follows their line of sight, and there he is, B. Hayes, leaning against the trunk of a battered sedan. He looks frantic, eyes wide, as if he just realized the world can indeed crash down on him. A tall police officer is speaking to him, reading him his rights. I grip the porch railing so tight my knuckles ache. I can barely hear their words, but the tone is clear, official, unyielding. I guess the tip I sent, the evidence I compiled, maybe it triggered an investigation that led them here. My heart hammers. He looks over his shoulder, sees my house, sees me on the porch. For a second, our eyes meet. He looks stunned, as if trying to remember where he's seen me before. Maybe from that night at the restaurant. Maybe from the pictures I took. All the color drains from his face. She's there too, my wife. Standing off to the side in our driveway, arms wrapped around herself, face pale and horrified. She must have invited him over, or he came unannounced. Now she stands watching him get cuffed, her lips parted in silent shock. Her eyes flick between him and me, and she knows. She knows I'm behind this. She can't prove it, but she feels it in her gut. The crushing guilt in her features is more confession than I ever wanted to see. Thunder rumbles overhead, despite the sky being mostly clear. An odd, distant storm? Maybe just leftover tension in the atmosphere. My chest feels heavy as I stand there, half in shadow, half in the dim sunlight. The officers guide him into the patrol car, door slamming shut. Then they drive away and the flashing lights vanish around the corner, leaving behind a hush. My wife remains in the driveway, shoulders trembling, her eyes glistening with tears she tries not to let fall. She turns to face me, desperation etched across her face. She opens her mouth, but no words come out. For a second, I expect a torrent of excuses or accusations. Instead, she just stares like she's seeing a stranger. I raise the beer bottle to my lips, take a slow sip, and watch. I can almost feel her heart pounding from across the yard. She stands there, arms limp at her sides now, each breath ragged. We both know she can't blame me outright because she can't pretend to be innocent. She can't go back to the life we had before. She's damned in her own eyes. Eventually, she gives a tiny shake of her head, tears barely contained. Then she turns, goes inside the house, and I'm left alone in the quiet. The neighbor's dog stops barking. The breeze feels oddly cool for this time of day. I sip my beer again, noticing the faint bitterness on my tongue. I should feel triumph. Some part of me does. A thrill of savage satisfaction blooms in my chest. He's gone, possibly facing charges, no longer free to show off that smug grin. I want to relish it, want to clasp it like a trophy. But it also tastes hollow because what have I really won? My marriage is beyond repair, her betrayal carved into my soul. She no longer laughs with me, no longer meets my eyes. And I'm not sure if I can stand to look at her again without remembering the lipsticked glass of red wine, the corners of her mouth curling into a smile meant for another man. Still, I did what I set out to do. I took my revenge. The next wave of emotion is unexpected sorrow, a wave of emptiness that leaves me shaking. Once upon a time, I loved her more than anything. Now, I am a shell of that man. I step into the house after finishing my beer outside. She's nowhere in sight, probably locked away in the guest room again, but I sense her presence. Tension weighs on the air like an invisible fog. A half-eaten bagel lies on the kitchen counter, a coffee mug sits half full in the sink. Minor signs of a life we once shared. I drift into the living room and remember the day we bought this couch. We argued over color schemes. She wanted a warmer tone, I insisted on something more neutral. We ended up with a compromise. A pattern emerges in my memory. So much of our marriage was about compromise, small negotiations. Where did it all unravel? A swirl of thoughts pummels me. The hatred, the regret, the longing. Finally, I go upstairs, into the bathroom. I take off my ring, hold it between my thumb and forefinger. The metal feels cold, heavier than ever. I lay it on the vanity next to the soap dish. My reflection in the mirror is unrecognizable, hollow eyes, jaw set in a hard line, a man who's been gutted. I recall an old piece of stationery stored in the second drawer, a leftover from when we wrote each other silly notes. I rummage around until I find a blank sheet, yellowed at the edges. I grab a pen and my hand trembles. I write in jagged letters. You've drowned us for a glass of wine and a young body. I sign nothing. No name, just that one sentence. Then I fold the paper into a small boat the way I did as a kid, something my father taught me. The corners are uneven, the line's not perfect, but it floats in my palm. A bitter laugh escapes me. There's no joy left in these childish gestures, only a twisted sense of closure I can't fully grasp. I move to the toilet, place the paper boat inside. My finger hovers over the flush. I picture our entire marriage swirling down into darkness. My chest tightens. Then I push the lever. Water rushes around the fragile paper. It spins, half submerged. But before it vanishes, I reach in and grab it, soaking my hand. I can't let it go. Not yet. My face contorts in a silent, bitter smile. Why am I saving it? Maybe it's a metaphor for how I can't truly let go of what we had. Or maybe it's the last shred of pity I have for myself. I toss the boat in the trash, hand dripping. I watch it sag among discarded tissues and realize I feel no relief, no catharsis, only a weary acceptance. Nights pass in uneasy calm. She sleeps alone. I hear her toss and turn, muffled sobs echoing through the walls. Sometimes I wonder if I should go to her, hold her one last time, but the memory of that kiss stops me cold. I bury myself in office work, watch mindless TV in the late hours, or just stare at the ceiling. When we run into each other in the hallway, she avoids my eyes and I keep walking. The tension is suffocating. We're two ghosts drifting in a house that was once a home, haunted by what we lost. Neither of us tries to fix it. Neither of us has the energy for more confrontation. I think back to our first real date, how we sat on a blanket by a Texas lakeshore, a cooler of cold drinks and a cheap radio playing in the background. We were so young, so optimistic. Her laughter was the sound of possibility. Now I can't reconcile that memory with the woman behind the closed guest room door. Days blur together. Sometimes I find myself driving aimlessly through town, ending up near that restaurant where she met him. The place stands with its classy French sign, promising fine wine, delicate pastries, and romantic ambience. My mouth turns dry every time I pass it. I can almost see the ghostly image of them laughing inside. My heart clenches, but I don't stop. I keep driving, eventually returning to the hollow quiet of the house. Word gets around. Some mutual friends suspect something. They text me or call, ask if everything is okay. I answer with polite evasiveness, saying we're just going through a rough patch. I'm sure she's telling them something similar, or maybe she's not telling them anything at all. My parents, still in Texas, notice my clipped tone on the phone. My mother tries to pry details from me, but I deflect. I'm not ready to open that door. I'm not sure if I ever will be. Another week passes. One evening, I'm on the porch, finishing yet another beer, my new nightly routine. I watch the sky transform from soft pink to a deep purple, day surrendering to dusk. She appears at the edge of the doorway, eyes red-rimmed as if she's been crying for hours. She doesn't speak, her mouth is pressed shut, jaw tight. I tilt the bottle at her in a half-greeting, half-question. She does nothing, just stands there. The air between us is heavy. I know she wants something, maybe to talk, maybe to apologize. But she can't bring herself to break her vow of silence. After a moment, she turns and retreats inside. The door clicks shut. In that moment, I realize how deeply she's drowning in guilt. But I can't comfort her. My anger is still there, though not as sharp, overshadowed now by the dull ache of betrayal. The quiet is more damning than 1,000 heated arguments. Part of me wonders if I should insist on a conversation, but then I remember the look on her face with him, how alive she seemed, how electrified. That memory kills any notion of bridging our chasm. For a second, I think about divorce, about calling a lawyer tomorrow. But the thought drifts away, replaced by a deeper realization I don't even know if that's what I want yet. I feel battered, hollow. Maybe a part of me is still hoping for her to speak, to say something that would make sense of this mess. But she doesn't, and the ache continues. One night, a month after it all went down, I find myself searching for closure. I rummage through our closet for some boxes of old letters, keepsakes from the early days of our relationship. Dust covers the lids. Inside, I see old birthday cards, small notes we wrote each other, photos of us grinning at holiday gatherings. We looked so happy, so in sync. My chest tightens as I realize how far we've strayed. Sifting through these relics, I find one letter she wrote me back when we were only dating a few months. She wrote about how much she admired my steadiness, my capacity to see beauty in small things. Her words glow with sincerity. I read it 3 times, trying to spot any hint of deception. But all I see is love. She used to love me. She used to be faithful. I close the box, set it aside. I feel numb. My phone buzzes, snapping me out of my daze. I check it, it's an email from the police department, from a detective's account. A courtesy message telling me, or rather, telling the anonymous tipster, that they've followed up on the information provided about B. Hayes, and further details will remain confidential due to an ongoing investigation. A short, impersonal note. But it confirms they're taking it seriously. I let out a slow breath. So it's happening. He's deeper in trouble now. My revenge is thorough. My mind drifts to the possibility that he might reach out to my wife, that she might go to him, see if she can help. But so far, she hasn't left the house for more than errands as far as I can tell. It's as though she's living in self-imposed exile, punishing herself by not seeking him out. I'm sure she's terrified, racked with guilt and confusion. That knowledge used to satisfy me in a bitter, twisted way. But now I only feel a faint relief that I'm not forced to watch them reunite. Outside, the wind picks up, howling around the corners of the house. The trees cast long, jagged shadows across the lawn, dancing under the flickering street lamp. A storm's on its way. I sense it in the electric charge in the air. I stand by the window, watch the leaves swirl, the clouds rolling in. Rain begins tapping on the glass. I wonder if redemption is possible or if we are beyond saving. My heart clenches. A savage voice inside me whispers that I should let her drown in shame, that I owe her nothing. Another voice, quieter, wonders if we've both lost more than we realize. Does my revenge truly heal anything? Has it made me stronger or simply hardened? Lightning flashes. A sharp crack of thunder follows. I step away from the window. My reflection in the dark glass looks haunted, older than my years. I think of my father who always said, true strength is forgiving the people who hurt you. But I don't know if I can reach that place. Not when the memory of them kissing is burned into my mind. Not when I see how she looks at me with that mixture of regret and lost hope. Downstairs, the front door opens. I hear her footsteps, hurried, frantic. Curious, I go to the hallway, watch her toss keys onto the table and glance around like she's searching for something. Our eyes meet. She's drenched from the rain, hair plastered to her cheeks. She hesitates, lips trembling. But she says nothing, like always. Then she turns, heads to the kitchen. Her shoulders quake with silent sobs. In another world, maybe I'd rush over, hold her, peel her wet jacket off, and run my hands over her arms until she warms up. In another world, maybe we'd talk about how the storm came out of nowhere, maybe share a laugh about how she got caught in the downpour. But not here, not now. In our world, she's just a figure crossing the empty rooms, and I'm the man who no longer cares to ask. I return to my own space, grabbing a fresh beer from the fridge. Another night of tight-lipped solitude. Rain pounds on the roof, thunder rattles the windows. I flick on the TV to drown out the storm, half-heartedly flipping channels. The sports anchor drones on about some local college scandal, something to do with a star athlete who might face charges. They show a quick mugshot. My wife's lover, in the corner of the screen, eyes shadowed, lips pressed into a grim line. I turn the TV off. I've seen enough. The storm inside me, the rage that once crackled, has subsided to a dull ache. And maybe that's worse. I never thought I'd see the day I simply felt nothing. Weeks pass. The house remains silent except for the everyday sounds of two people living separate lives under one roof. I wake up early for work, fix coffee, leave before she's up. She's either gone or hiding when I return. We have no real arguments. No real conversations. The tension could be cut with a knife. I realize I'm at a crossroads, either cling to this fractured union out of sheer inertia or end it altogether. But there's a twisted logic in my caution. I'm not ready to let go of everything we built, even if she's the one who destroyed it. I'm not ready to move out, find a new apartment, start over. The revenge took so much of my focus that I never considered what would come after. In the quiet evenings, I nurse my beer on the porch, recalling the man I was before all this. It's like looking at a stranger. That naive, trusting version of me is gone. But something else lingers, a dull clarity that, yes, I've survived the worst of it. She can't break me any further, not really. She already did her damage, and I survived. One late afternoon, the sky is blazing orange, the kind of sunset that would have prompted us to grab chairs and watch side by side, sipping wine in comfortable silence once upon a time. Now I sit alone. The door behind me creaks, and I sense her standing there, hesitating. My heartbeat quickens. Maybe this is it. Maybe she's going to speak at last, break that vow of silence. Maybe she wants to find a shred of reconciliation or confess. I set the beer down, turn to face her. Her eyes are tired, rimmed with shadows of lost sleep. She takes a single step out onto the porch. Our gazes lock. The air feels charged, expectant. My lips part, ready to ask the question that's been burning inside me, why? But before I can speak, she sinks down onto the porch bench, buries her face in her hands. Her shoulders shake in a silent sob. The sun bleeds into the horizon, painting her in half-light. My chest tightens. I swallow hard, torn between heartbreak and the memory of her betrayal. Slowly, I reach out, place a hand near her, not touching her, just close enough that she can feel the warmth of my presence. She lifts her head, eyes red, her mouth drawn into a trembling line. She inhales as if to say something, but no words come out. Then the old resolution returns. She presses her lips together, stands up, and retreats inside without a single sound. I let out a long breath. Maybe that was her attempt at bridging the gap. Maybe not. My mind drifts to that final act of vengeance, reporting him, watching him get taken away in cuffs. Part of me thought that once I had my revenge, I'd feel free. Instead, I feel unmoored, drifting in the aftermath. The last traces of the sunset fade. Dusk sets in. I stare into the gathering shadows, recalling the vow I made on our wedding day. I will love and cherish you. The words mock me now. Days merge into a blur. But eventually, something shifts in me. I wake up one morning and notice the ring on my nightstand, cold and metallic. I realize I haven't touched it in weeks. Slowly, I pick it up. I turn it over in my hands, remembering how it felt on my finger. Once it was a promise of forever. Now it's just a circle of metal, a relic of a broken bond. I slip it into my pocket. I dress for work, smoothing out the creases in my shirt. Downstairs, I grab a piece of toast, find her in the kitchen, rummaging through the fridge. She glances at me for the briefest second, and in her eyes, there's a flicker of sorrow. I think of the letterboat, the night I saw them kiss, the police lights. Everything that's happened. Something inside me closes the door on hope. I walk out, letting the screen door bang behind me. That evening, after I come home from the office, I find the guest room door open, her suitcase on the bed, half packed with folded clothes. She's in there, picking up items, pausing, putting them down. She sees me in the doorway and tenses. We stand in that hush, 1,000 unspoken words swirling in the air. She's leaving. Maybe for good. My jaw sets, but I can't muster anger anymore. The emptiness is too vast. She watches me, waiting to see if I'll say something, maybe beg her to stay, maybe scream at her to get out. But I just stand there, arms at my sides, face a blank mask. If she wants to leave, fine. If she wants to stay, it doesn't matter. The damage is done. She exhales shakily, zips up the suitcase. Rolling it behind her, she brushes past me, heading downstairs. I don't follow. The front door opens, then closes. Silence settles like dust. A few minutes later, I hear her car pull away. I'm alone in a house of memories, windows reflecting the late-day sun. I walk back to the bathroom, my steps slow, heavy. My reflection in the mirror is the same haunted face, but a hint of relief flickers across it. This is the final step, I think. She's gone, and I'm still here. Downstairs, I open the fridge, grab a cold beer. On my way to the porch, I notice the mail on the table. One envelope stands out, a final notice from the wedding venue we used to rent for our anniversary parties, offering a discount if we want to host something there again. The irony almost makes me laugh. I crumple it up, toss it aside. Outside, the sun glows with a fierce brightness, no clouds in sight. A gentle breeze carries the faint scent of cut grass. Summer is ending soon, I realize. The year marches on, regardless of my personal hell. I drop into the porch chair, pop open the beer, and take a swig. It's crisp, bitter. The days of heartbreak swirl inside me, but something like acceptance drifts on the edges of my awareness. In the distance, kids are riding bikes, free and wild, the way I used to be years ago. A memory stirs of a simpler time, no ring on my finger, no illusions. Maybe that's what I'll return to in my own way. Start over, figure out who I am without her. The pain still lingers, but there's room now for something new. I see, in my mind's eye, her face when the police took him away, shock and horror. My revenge was complete, and she bore witness to it. My lips curl into a grim smile. In the grand scheme, it doesn't fix the betrayal, but it proves I'm not the kind of man who lets a blow like that go unanswered. She's free to wallow in guilt or move on. Either way, she knows what it cost her. She knows the kind of wound she inflicted. I finish the beer, set the bottle by my feet. The neighbor's dog barks at a passing truck. I close my eyes, letting the warmth of the evening wash over me. This is my life now, a quiet house, a battered heart, and a sense of finality that I can't quite put into words. But I survived. I run a hand over my face, feeling the slight stubble on my cheeks. Somewhere, a siren wails in the distance, reminding me that the world keeps moving. And I recall a promise I whispered to myself, a vow for the future. Next time, I'll choose someone who won't sell love for a plate of salmon tartare. That's my final thought as I watch the sun dip below the horizon. The sky burns orange and pink, fading into darkness, and with it the last vestiges of who I was before. I let them go. And, for the first time in a long while, I feel the faint, cold flicker of hope for whatever comes next.